How did it go from Silver Dollar City, Tennessee, to Dollywood?
Because of Dolly Parton.
Yeah.
It's really very, very simple.
Today on the Servant Leadership Podcast, we welcome Peter Herschend. Peter and his brother Jack built one of the largest family entertainment organizations in the world, but their story didn't start with theme parks, acquisitions, or millions of guests. Peter shares how Silver Dollar City grew from a 5,000-visitor cave operation into a nationwide portfolio of parks and attractions that now serve over 15 million people across over 40 properties. Some of their brands include Dollywood, the Harlem Globetrotters, many resorts, additional theme parks, and more. In this episode, Peter walks through the decisions, values, and convictions that shaped an entire company culture. Peter talks through Christ being at the center, a deep commitment to loving employees, and a long-term view of stewardship that spans generations.
Peter, thank you for joining us on the Servant Leadership Podcast.
Chris, I am honored and delighted to be here.
I just told you this before, but when people were asking me about starting the podcast, multiple people asked, who is the one person you'd want on the podcast? And the first person that came to mind was you.
Oh, my goodness. You need help. You got to get more friends.
You have been so influential, so I want to say thank you. And when people look at you from the outside, they obviously see a lot of worldly success, but they also see you are in charge of, or have been in charge of, or been a part of starting many of the world's most recognized entertainment brands out there. How did this all get started?
Well, it's very, very simple answer. It started with a cave. It started with a hole in the ground here in Missouri. That cave was called, and still is called, Marvel Cave. And today it sits under Silver Dollar City. But that was the genesis. That was the alpha. My mom and dad, Hugo and Mary Herschend, came to the Ozarks in the late 1940s, 48, 9. Dad was an amateur botanist. He loved flowers, and an amateur ornithologist. He loved birds. And the Ozarks had a lot of both. And so he loved this area. From coming down from Chicago, there are a lot more birds and flowers here than there were in Chicago. Anyway, in that wandering around in the hills, looking at the birds and flowers, Mom and Dad met two remarkable ladies, Miss Miriam and Miss Genevieve Lynch. Miss Miriam and Miss Genevieve happened to own Marvel Cave. They inherited it really from their father, who had put it in commercial service a long time ago, 1894 to be exact. Now, commercial service meant that there were some tours. By today's standards, not much. If they did 50 people a month, they would have been busy back in those days. Bottom line, Miss Miriam and Miss Genevieve, we always addressed them that way. Miss Miriam and Miss Genevieve were getting on in years, and they wanted to have retirement. They wanted to retire from the cave business. Dad, on the other hand, looked at Marvel Cave, and he saw an opportunity for his retirement, but for a business that could grow. And so, long story short, in 1950, we took over Marvel Cave. And that was the very, very beginning of who we are today. It was a markedly different picture then and now. The first year we were in business, Chris, we had a grand total of 5,000 visitors go through the cave. We charged $1.25. So you're quick. You can work that out in your head. I just gave you the entire balance, the profit and loss statement of the operating company in that year. Needless to say, you're not getting a very good return on your investment at that point. Dad continued. He worked for the Electrolux Corporation, and he continued to work for them. He became the funding stream. His income was the funding stream that kept the lights on. We had a grand total of 3 employees, Bert, Lester, and Rex. And Bert and Lester and Rex, all wonderful people, they also needed to be paid. And that's where Dad's work came in. He became the banking backup. It was tough sledding. It was really, we counted every penny. We could not afford a cash register. We used an old cigar box. It was our best cash register in that first year. It was difficult, but it didn't stay difficult. We started building up the cave attendance, and by the time 1959 had rolled around, we built that cave attendance from 5,000 up to 80,000.
Wow.
Now that's a good number. It's not great, but it's way better than 5.
Wow. So a lot of people don't realize that was even the start of what became Silver Dollar City. And
absolutely.
That was where this is where you got your start in getting involved in so many brands. So how did Silver Dollar City come about from the cave?
I said 1959 because that was the last year before we started Silver Dollar City. How did Silver Dollar City come about is the fair question. And there was a man. His name was Russ Pearson. He walked into our life, literally walked into our life one day in about midsummer of 1959, and he quite a character. He looked like he wanted to be a movie cowboy, dressed in Western gear, hat and boots and all, but unlike a lot of people who can put a hat on, but they're all hat and no cattle, Russ was smart. And he came to us and he said, literally to Mary and Jack and myself, why don't you, on the other side of the parking lot over there, build a small little town? And people will come and enjoy the town, and you'll get more people going through Marvel Cave. Remember, we're in the cave business. We're not in the Silver Dollar City business at that time. That changed quickly. Well, we did that. We borrowed every penny that we could scrape up from everywhere, and the local bank lent us a few thousand. Really speculative, because they're going to lend us money on a business that doesn't exist and hope it does well, but they had some confidence in us. And so in 1960, first year we opened this place called Silver Dollar City. And Chris, it was, God had his hand in what we were doing. I don't think, well, as a matter of fact, I know that Jack and I didn't think much about God then. We do now, but we didn't think much about God then. We were just grateful that all of a sudden there were a lot of people coming out, because we would do some really, really corny shows at Silver Dollar City, but people loved them. Mm-hmm. And then we're getting more people through the cave. Remember, we're in the cave business. We're not in the Silver Dollar City business. The city was built to attract more people to go through Marble Cave, not the other way around. And it worked for Marble Cave. We went 1959, 80,000 visitors. 1960, 120,000 visitors. That's a substantial change. Mm-hmm. That summer, Jack and I had a meeting. We sat out. We laughingly call it our first board meeting, meaning there were 2 stumps and a couple of 2x12s spread across them. And we sat on the board. We had our board meeting, and we said, in effect, that's not verbatim, but you know what? We just changed something here. We were in the cave tour business. We are no longer there. We are now in the entertainment business. Mm. And Chris, those are fundamental recognitions that transition points, because everything you do from that point forward is aimed at being in the entertainment business. How can we do a better job of entertaining our guests? Mm-hmm. Not how can we get more tours through Marble Cave? We did get a lot more tours through Marble Cave, but that's not what we were there for. How will people enjoy themselves more, or will they enjoy themselves more? Or is this an expenditure that we got to make that they'll never know we made on deep wells or parking lots? Public doesn't give you any credit for a parking lot. It's not entertaining. It's something to get off of. Mm-hmm. But that's okay. We were in the entertainment business. And that mantra has been part of who we are ever since. Mm.
Well, and along the way, that led to many other entertainment businesses that you got involved in. Getting involved in the Globetrotters, getting involved in water parks, hospitality businesses, getting involved in Dolly World. Talk about how you made the decision at some point. Silver Dollar City had blown up and gone crazy. And now you were getting into other businesses as well.
It was defensive. It was a defensive decision. We, mid-1980s, some of your audience who's old enough will remember the Arab oil embargoes. I remember them. I don't remember them fondly, but they were very, very real. And there were 2 of them, but they triggered, and this is what I mean by defensive, they triggered in us a realization Silver Dollar City was doing okay. Yeah. Sure better than we'd ever dreamed it would be. But we are highly dependent on the ability of people to get in their automobile and come see us. The oil embargo really pointed out we did okay. Business was off. It was off for everybody, but we only lost. We had some countermeasures that we went through to get around it, but we lost 5%. Most businesses who were equally dependent on automobile travel were in the 20 and 30% loss.
Wow.
during those times. But it pointed out to us that Silver Dollar City, I wouldn't trade our location on it for anything. But there's not a population density that means anything. As a matter of fact, if you go west from Silver Dollar City, you get into Oklahoma and Kansas and eastern Colorado. And the population density is microscopic. Mm-hmm. So we said we just need to be where more people are so we can have it's easier for people to get to where we are, wherever that may be. Yeah. And that's how we ended up in Tennessee in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee. That's where Dollywood is now. It didn't start out to be Dollywood, obviously. It was Silver Dollar City, Tennessee. Mm. And but it met the criteria because you can draw a 360 circle around Silver Dollar City, Tennessee, and there's population in all four quadrants. Meaningful population within a 2 to 3 hour drive. And that's kind of the base criteria.
Hmm. How did it go from Silver Dollar City, Tennessee to Dolly World?
Because of Dolly Parton.
Yeah.
It's really very, very simple. You asked the right question. 40 years ago this year, we made the transition. Dolly Parton, amazing person and personality. Mm. But Dolly was from Pigeon Forge, Tennessee, which is where Dollywood is now. And she had, for years, after she became famous in her own right, she had talked on and off saying, I'd like to do something for my people, meaning not her family, but all the people in East Tennessee. Call it Appalachia? Yeah, you'd be correct. In other words, these are people who are besieged by poverty. Mm. And the travel industry has, for them, become manna from heaven because it's provided good employment. But she didn't look at it that way. She just wanted to do something that would make life better. Well, she didn't know what that was. And so we listened and went on about our business. We were just Silver Dollar City, Tennessee. And then, all of a sudden, she says, I think I'd like to build a theme park here in Pigeon Forge. Well, that'll get your attention when Dolly Parton says that. And now credit my brother Jack with being amazingly bold and stepping out. Well, first of all, you don't just pick up the phone and call Dolly and say, by the way, would you like to be in business? You're not going to get very far. So it took a little bit of working around to finally for Jack to have a meeting with Dolly. Mm. And in that meeting, he really only said one thing. He said, Dolly, you want to put in a park, and because your name is Dolly, it'll do very well. You'll do about 750,000 visitors. And you know what? We already have a park, and that's what we're doing now. And so we'll hit 750,000 visitors. Dolly, why don't we combine our talents, your name, and this is what he said to her, your name and our operating excellence. Mm. And together, we can create an entire new product, one that nobody has heard of. Everybody would be amazed with it. And in essence, He said, yeah, let's do it. Wasn't quite that simple, but Dolly, for her part, she says yes to something. It's a handshake. It's done. Do you have to go through the legal niceties? Yes, of course you do. That goes without saying. Contracts and leases and so on. But the base agreement is a handshake.
Wow.
Then and now. She is a remarkable partner. And is she an asset from a business standpoint? You'd have to be in some other world to say no to that question. She has been as great a partner as you could hope to find.
That's awesome.
There's just nobody like her.
So you talked about when the caves were first acquired, doing about 5,000 people a year.
Yeah.
Now, when you look at all the different business units you have across the country, Dollywood, Silver Dollar City, everything, how many people are engaging with your entertainment brands?
How many guests do we have?
Yeah.
All products, 15 million.
Wow.
That's a ballpark number.
Yeah.
Because, I don't know. We're fortunate enough to acquire some new properties this calendar year. I don't know what the full impact of those properties will be, but we have some projections. So 15 million.
That's amazing.
Plus or minus a few million will be a good enough number.
Well, and we've talked in the past about every year you're acquiring new properties. Or most years, you're acquiring a substantial number of properties.
Seems that way, yes.
How do you go about deciding this is a good property? This is something we might be interested in, but we decide not to. What's the decision-making process look like?
The answer is very carefully and very slowly. We just 2 weeks ago announced the acquisition of our last property for this year. But we've been talking with the ownership at that property for over 2 years. First of all, it has to feel right. And you hear the phrase, I'll know it when I see it. I can walk into a property, or our management team, the leadership, can walk into a property, and I can tell you right away whether it physically will be a good fit. That's what. That answers what question, and that's a kind of a listing of assets and how much property is there and what are the buildings. That's what. We'll pay a lot more attention to who the property is, who are the people who are running it now, because we don't have any intention. This new property I just mentioned, we have no intention of coming in and cleaning house. It would be the dumbest move in the world. It's a successful business, and it's been successful for 40 years. Why in the world would we want to change that? And the answer is we don't. So there's the obvious questions, Chris, have to be answered. Some of them are financial. A potential new property has got to have. We don't buy losers. Are we perfect in that? Perfect in that? No. By the way, we've made some mistakes, but not many. So we'll go through the financial side of a new business. But I think more important, we'll go through the operating side. How do these folks operate? This year also, we made a major purchase of all the operating assets of a company from Europe in the United States. All their operating properties here in the U.S. 21 properties.
Wow.
all in the entertainment business at one level or another, some very well known, some lesser known. Of the 21, we opted to keep 10. 11 of them didn't fit for whatever the reason. It wasn't that they were bad properties, they're good properties. So they've all been sold to happy buyers. The 10 we kept, we have spent hours of time with their people, not inspecting buildings. There's some bean counters can do that, and that's okay. But where we spent our time is in listening to these men and women who ran a successful business. How'd you do that? How'd you guys get that done? And our CEO, corporate CEO, Andrew Wexler, he said in board meeting a few weeks ago, he said, what we found with listening, and this is an important point, what we found with listening to these people is that they have some really, really good practices and ideas. And we are bringing several of their good ideas, making them into our corporate folio. How we are going to do, we're changing because of them, not the other way around. Normally in acquisitions, the senior company, you guys got to do it our way. I don't think that's the wisest move. The business of cultural blending is what I'm really, really talking about. That is more important to me than the financial statement.
It's interesting. When people look at everything you're doing, people are often like, wow. It seems like they often strike gold. And we talk on this podcast a lot about servant leadership, as you know. And sometimes I think from the outside, when people look at you, from a servant leadership standpoint, they might see, well, because he's been successful, what makes him a great servant leader is his extreme generosity. One of the things that I've experienced personally is your generosity of time and also wisdom. I remember we were a few years into starting our business, and we were sitting at one of your other offices, and I had always heard this concept of values and the importance of a strategic plan, but we had nothing as a company. We were a few years in, and we were making money and doing that, but we had no values, we had no strategic plan. And you pulled out a one-page piece of paper and you said, let's look at this together. And you went through your values and you went through your strategic plan. So you're talking about a lot of your team in a great way is learning a lot in bringing it over and making Herschend Family Entertainment and all the brands you work with better. But you also have a really solid base that even enables that type of environment. Talk about how you created an environment where it's just the values, the strategic plan, everything that you're doing that even sets that up to work so well.
I wish I could say to you, what you have to do is read these 4 books and it will tell you exactly how to do it and you'll be set for life. We learned from our mistakes. I would be way out of line if I tried to give you the impression that everything we do is just easy and works beautifully. We've made plenty of mistakes in what we thought was right, and then it turned out to be not right. You learn from that. You learn to listen. You learn to listen. That's what I'm talking about with Andrew Wexler. When he has been meeting with the operating teams at these 10 properties we kept, and it isn't just Andrew, but it's a management team going in there. But these are listening sessions. They aren't selling sessions. We're not there to sell them on how good we are. We're there to learn from how do you do things. And that's how we have evolved to where we are. Have we taken training? Of course. All the way back to Dale Carnegie. I mean, and the 7 Habits. We've done all of those things. And I think they're all valuable and important. But it's the sum of what you appropriate, what we appropriate to ourselves, and formulate into those 2 pieces of paper, 2 one-sided pieces of paper, which have everything that we are on 2 pages. Full summary. And I think that's really important that for our company, we still use them. Still use same 2 pages. But anybody really needs to get to the point where their values, where they have something hard copy, if you would, that says this is who we are. The reverse is companies that go into business and they don't know what business they're in. Companies that go into business and they don't know what their morals code is. How well they treat people. That, I'm not talking about moral, well, I'm talking about all morals, but the morals of taking care of the men and women who work with you. How do you treat them? In our case, how do you love them? Key word. We learned that. And part of it is intuitive. We've been doing it because that's the way Hugo and Mary, Mom and Dad were. They loved the men and women who, Bert, Lester, and Rex, those first 3. They loved them. There's 3 guys from the hills, but they were salt of the earth. How do we show, and with 22,000 employees, how do we share that we love them? Or is that important? And the answer is, you bet it's important, at least for our company. Because if you don't have that codified, if you don't have it in your head, in black and white somewhere, then you're going to forget. It's what's going to happen. You're a compass with no true north. And so anything that comes along any wind can change the set of your sail.
How did you keep love has always been at the center of it, and I know Joel Manby talked a lot about that when he was here too, but you've had multiple transitions of different, thankfully amazing leaders, throughout all of the different things you've done. How have you worked on keeping that consistent across different leaders who have different methodologies and who have been brought up in different experiences?
There is a really, really good question, and the answer, I believe, is all of the senior leaders, the CEOs of the company, are dedicated Christians. They love the Lord. We're not a church, far from it, and they are not church people, they aren't pastors, but they know what the Lord's love means in their own life, and are able to, therefore, transmit that same love to the men and women who work for them. And that sounds so super simple, but at its basics, that's what's happening. Leadership To work here at the company, you don't have to be a Christian. We do, all of the CEOs that have walked through our doors, that is the common thread. They've all been solid, believing Christians.
Wow. That's an amazing thread. And you can see the difference.
I believe so.
Unbelievable. Yeah.
I believe so. I believe that thread is like perfect seasoning. It just permeates the company. Our senior leadership here in Missouri, our senior leadership in Tennessee, both men, amazingly effective leaders, and able to love tough. I've had people say, well, that's kind of wimpy. Don't cross one of these guys. Don't do something that you know you shouldn't be, or you'll be on your ear because they won't put up with it.
You're in an interesting season now. You and Jack have been able to hand off a lot of what you've done, and now you're thinking about leadership and maybe servant leadership a little bit differently. How are you now thinking about what it looks like to lead well from where you are personally? And share a little bit about how involved you still are and what maybe you aren't involved in as well.
What Jack and I are not involved in is day-to-day operations. That's where we cut our eye teeth. But we made a decision. That's 15 years now, or maybe a little longer. I have to pull the calendar up and take a look. We made a conscious decision that we weren't going to be the kind of, we were the two operating senior guys. He was CEO and I was executive VP, and everything in the company ran through us is a little bit of an overstatement, but we're the top two positions. What we didn't want to do for the sake of the company was die at our desk with our boots on. Because if you do that, who's behind you to take over, pick up the reins? It was not a matter of family inheritance in the sense of our children aren't automatically knighted to be the new CEO. It doesn't work that way. And we just had a meeting on that and never was brought up. But what we didn't want to do was stay in the office so long that nobody there was wasn't a glass ceiling, it was a steel ceiling. Nobody could break through. No, there's no way, because Jack and Peter are up there, and control would be the wrong word, but blocking would be the right word. Blocking opportunity. So we made a conscious decision to step out of operations, both of us. We did it, took it 3 to 4 years for us to do that. And we stepped out of operations and served. The only active place where we were was on the board of directors. But that's not an operating position. It's not an operating board. It's a policy board. That was good because that freed up the company to bring in men, and precisely at that point, that's where Joel Manby came from. He was on our board at the time, and Jack and I had both stepped away, and the board looked at Joel and said, would you take the job if offered? Long story short, yes. And we never looked back.
Wow.
I think it's imperative for a company, if you want the company to go on, I know too many men, mostly men, some women, who are convinced that nobody can run the company but them. And that's just absolutely baloney. Mm-hmm. Because when they die, somebody's going to. And it seems to me to be logical that if you want the company to be successful, after you, Mr. CEO, are gone, then you better have qualified men in the position already, not waiting until you decide not to show up anymore. But anyway, that's how we transitioned, and we've been that way ever since. Wow. With outside leadership. I think I mentioned to you earlier, we have a rule, an operating rule, an internal rule, that only 2 members of the family can be on our board of directors at any one time. Why do we do that? Well, honestly, we did it to protect the company, because I can picture a time down the line after Jack and Peter are gone, where somebody might well say, gee, I'd like to have more money. I'd like to have a bigger dividend. People who are listening to this podcast are nodding their head and saying, yeah, I understand that. And you load the board with family members, and you get a plurality of family members, and they can vote a new dividend structure. That's fatal. That's fatal certainly fatal to the economic health. It's also extremely selfish, but because you're penalized, you're benefiting, but that money's coming out of somebody's pocket, and it's either coming out of operating wages or CapEx. One of the two. No other place for it to be.
Wow. How do you deal with all that? Because now, as you've transitioned onto the board, you've transitioned out of operating daily operations, family's getting in the business, you're thinking about the next generation, the third generation, the fourth, fifth, sixth, you're thinking about future generations. How do you think about that?
We think about it a lot, and the way we deal with it may not be the best, but the way we deal with it is intentional relationship building at the younger generations. Because the further you get away from the founding fathers, Jack and Pete, and we're not going to be here, Don't come back and do a rebroadcast 10 years from now. I'm otherwise employed. But the further families generationally are away from the godfathers, if you would, the founding, the less empathy they have, less understanding they have for how all this came to be. They can't have it. They weren't there. So what do you do to counter that? And that's when I say we work to educate. We work to bring these, call them the younger generations. In our case, some of the younger generations are now in their mid and late 20s. And they are the next cadre of ownership, not of leader, but of ownership. And hopefully we have spent enough time over the course of their lifetime to have infused in them an understanding of how the company got where it is and what it is to be an owner as opposed to an operator, and a fundamental understanding of finance. What happens? What happens if you increase the dividend? Well, you know, the quick answer is I have more money. That's right. Where'd it come from? You know, and walking through that process with them, not once, but several times over this transition process. We start when a youngster is 5 years old.
Wow.
We're not giving them college education, how to read a P&L at 5 years old. They really are not going to do that. But we really want them at age 5, 6, 7, 8, and up to really enjoy being part of what they will come to see as ownership. 5 years old, he doesn't care anything about ownership. He wants to know what's fun. Mm-hmm. Well, if it's fun to be at these gatherings put on by this company that didn't even understand, but he knows every time they do it, it's a really good thing, and I get to see all my cousins. What's happening? You're building a relationship in their mind that this company's pretty good. And as they get older, they come to realize it's not only pretty good, it's pretty darn good, and it's been really beneficial to them. We need to protect it.
And real quick, I'd love, and this is a change of gears. You talk about the importance of educating family members and bringing them up in that way. I know education for you has been something that you have gotten involved in very heavily.
Yes.
Talk about your journey of why education became so important to you, and also maybe share some of the cool stuff you do. I've heard about the Dollywood with employees and other things.
Yeah.
Just how you've highlighted education.
Well, my involvement in education came about very honestly and very, very surprising to me. My oldest daughter was running track here in Branson Elementary School, middle school, and she fell on the track, and it was what's called a red dog cinder. I don't think they even exist today, but it was a cinder track, and her knee was not a pretty thing to behold, and so we got that taken care of, made sure it was okay, but I started thinking, why do we have that? Why? Because rubberized track, the way layman's term, rubber tracks. Mm-hmm. They're not rubber, but they're way better. We're just starting to be known. So I went to the local board of education, said, if I raise enough money, will you put one in for Branson? And they kind of scoffed at me and said, yeah, but it's $100,000. And I said, okay, if I raise $100,000, you'll put a decent track in for Branson schools. And they said yes. Yeah. And I did, and they did. And that got me started because I started seeing how education leadership is or isn't. And that was the Genesis experience on education. I've since become fixated on the importance of core education, reading, math, science, and social science. Education so often today gets lost in social issues and the questions of gay rights will dominate a board meeting as opposed to how well the kids are learning how to read. Are the other issues important? Of course they are. Mm-hmm. But they aren't what we're here for. So that, I'd like to think that that same level of enthusiasm for helping our men and women throughout the company to grow evolved into some practices that are in place today. if you work for the company and you want to go to college, as long as you're doing okay grade-wise, company's got you books and tuition.
Love that.
Period. And we're just now starting a career ed. I'm talking about for the trades critically. Matter of fact, I'm more excited about that for more people than I am for a college degree, because I'm going to need a lot more plumbers than I am people who are well versed in philosophy. I'm going to need electricians. I'm going to need carpenters in my life, and you are too. So we're working on that. We're starting to make that happen.
Wow. Well, I want to finish the last 60 seconds with 10 rapid fire questions where you just say the first thing that comes to mind, and there is no right answer. Maybe there's some wrong ones, but maybe not. Who's the first person you think of when I say servant leadership?
My brother.
Jack is great. Favorite author or book?
Stephen Ambrose, Undaunted Courage.
5 words that most describe you.
Outward, Christian, husband, caring, in love.
Love that. Favorite food?
Barbecue.
You do some amazing stuff out here as well.
I've done some.
You spend a lot of time on that. Favorite thing to do in your free time?
Fly fishing.
All right. What's a surprising fact about you?
That I'm 91 and still going strong. That's being 91 is wonderful. That's a surprising fact.
All right. Where's favorite place you've been?
Ever?
Yeah, ever.
My ancestral home in Denmark.
Wow. Is there anywhere in the world that you want to go that you have not been to?
Antarctica.
Wow, that'd be amazing. All right, what's the best advice you've ever received?
Scripture. Love one another as I have loved you.
Wow, that's great. And finally, and really, you were one of the deepest inspirations for the podcast too. Why do you think a podcast like this on servant leadership is important for other people?
I love to share. I love to share what I have been given. I've been given so much. It's not a one-word answer, but I've been given so much, and I want to give it away. I want other people to not emulate me. That's not what I'm saying. But I've learned so much from others, from men like yourself, over the years, that if I can use a tool like a podcast to reach hundreds, thousands of other men and women who might be able to use just a little bit of what I have. I don't think I have the answer. I know I don't have the answers. But maybe I have a way to get to the answer. If I can do that, then that's what makes a podcast worthwhile.
That's so good. Well, Peter, I just want to say thank you for being on the podcast and for your influence on me and the stuff we're doing.
Chris, a blessing to you, my friend. I appreciate you.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Servant Leadership Podcast. If you enjoyed what you heard, please give it a thumbs up and leave a comment below. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell to never miss an update. Be sure to check out the servantleadershippodcast.org for more updates and additional bonus content.